Hello friends, welcome to session 17, Business Process Modeling. The agenda of this session is why business process modeling. What are the objectives of business process modeling or BPM or simply modeling? Why do we do it? At the end, what we will get. What is process management? Understanding process modeling. Modeling using BPMN, which is business process modeling by notation. So we'll understand this in bits and pieces of BPMN. In fact, we will do a small exercise also. As is versus to be modeling. This is a simple thing that what is the current state, do a modeling of that, and to be the future model, what the future model is going to be. So there is no separate topic for this, but yes, that was included just to take and make you understand that we're going to talk about this also. BPMN subclasses, and then BPMN and simple structure, what is prototyping, and a case study, business process modeling case study. For this, I'm going to share with you a ready document the way I've been sharing till now. 2 or 3 documents I have already shared. One was examples of fishbone diagram, another was this document requirement, a requirement document, BRD, business requirement document, and one more. So this is going to be business process modeling example complete case study with exercise with a question, and then modeling of that case study complete, around 20 pages of Word document, wherein you will be able to make changes and you will understand that how document is created after this class, so that you understand if required you should be able to create or draw a business process model. Business process model. Business process models are the pivot around which solutions are specified, designed, and implemented. So business processes, basically we are going to talk about the solutions, because whenever we do solution, whenever we create solutions, they are developed around the processes. We have some processes which are some kind of results of for example functional requirements. So implement what? They implement processes. Same way locations run at processes, and applications implemented on processes, and technology use processes. So you can use their interchangeable terms, and organization structure, business rules, data. So processes are everywhere. Well, let it be technology, let it be applications or locations or organization structure or business rules. How the processes are related to business rules. Process execute business rules, or business rules execute processes. So, or data, process manipulate the data. So basically the relationship is you can see that everywhere we have processes, let it be data, functional requirement, or any other thing. So they are the pivot around which we specify the solution, we design the solution, and we implement the solution. So processes are must for any organization. Without process, we probably can't make a cup of tea even. That is the simplest example I can give. Why models are created? Put simply, business process modeling aims to improve business performance by optimizing the efficiency of connecting activities in the provision of a product or service. So this is the simplest possible definition, or rather say requirement, or the use. Why do we create models? Because if we have some flow diagram or chart, as we say, pictures are always better for understanding. Pictures convey a good message, and pictures make the things simpler to understand. That is why we use these models to make the process simple to understand. So connectivity between the processes, connectivity between the data and processes, or any other communication, if we draw a diagram for that purpose, that is simpler to explain and simpler to understand. So that is the probably the reason Why do we create models? So there are many definitions of business process modeling, but you will see somewhere these 4 5 definitions which I'm going to talk about are related to each other or some way convey the same meaning, which I'll elaborate in the last line. So BPM is a mechanism for describing and communicating the current or intended future state of a business process. So it's a mechanism for describing and communicating. So how do you describe that? How do you communicate that? Are there any other mechanisms also? Absolutely. There are many mechanisms, many ways to describe the communication of current state and intended future state of a business process. So therefore, this is not the only way, I would say, that modeling is the only way to communicate or describe the current state or the intended state of a business process. That is true. There are many other mechanisms by which we can describe this. BPM is a means of representing the steps, participants, and decision logic in a business process. So same way we talk about steps to be taken, participants who are involved in the process, and the decision logic, how the steps, how the instructions are followed, how the steps are going from, how we are moving from one step to another, one stage to another. We use these models, or we use BPM for that purpose. Another definition is BPM aims to improve business performance by optimizing the efficiency of connecting activities in a provision of a product or service. Same thing, because when we draw the diagram, it is far more user friendly and easy to understand compared to the other written document or text. So therefore it improves the performance by optimizing the efficiency of connecting activities, because you will find it very easy to understand when the activities are connected, from this activity outcome is this activity draws from this activity. So that is easy to understand. BPM is a set of activities for representing business process in a formal way, enabling analyst and further improvement of these processes. All these are definition, and last definition is business process modeling is a combination of various processes related steps such as process mapping, process discovery, process simulation, process analysis, and process improvement. All these things put together, then we can summarize this business process modeling as how works get done in an enterprise or an organization. This is the simplest summary out of all these definitions. So there are many definitions, but ultimately it is describing and communicating. Okay. Objectives of modeling. Business process model diagram is a tool. It is a means to an end, not a performance outcome in its own right. Okay. So basically we just draw the diagram. It's a tool basically to help and to reach from start to end. Okay. The final output is improvement in a way that the business process works, because some way after drawing the logical flow and this instructions or logical flow of the data, one from one step to another, we'll find it is output is improvement. So we'll get an improvement in how the business process is working. The focus of the improvement is on value added actions that that make the customer service and experience better, and on reducing wasted time and effort. These are simpler to understand, easy to explain, and very easy to when you have a diagram in front of you and you explain to the audience that this is how my process is working, then there is no better way to explain that. Okay, there are two main different types of business process models. One is as is, or the baseline model, that is the current situation. Again, these types are not to be studied separately, but there are only two different process models. Like we just create a model on the current status or current baseline, or we call it as current status is this. So we call it as is model. And then and to be model, which is the intended new situation or the final outcome after the solution is implemented, that model. So we are working on two models, for one, current state, and second, to be or the final state, okay, which are used to analyze, test, implement and improve the process. So it is, you just imagine in your back of the mind that we are seeing two diagrams. One, the current status, current process, how it is working, and two, future. So we can easily find out the difference or the gaps or improvement areas in the current diagram with the final stage or implementation. Once we complete this session, you will understand the difference between the two, because obviously we have problems, we have some problems to be solved, some requirements are there, that is why we are talking about this solution. And if you are offering solution, there has to be some gaps, okay, and we need to minimize these gaps by suggesting this solution in this project or this software. The aim of modeling is to illustrate a complete process, enabling managers, consultants and staff to improve the flow and streamline the process. The outcomes of a business process modeling projects are essentially the value for the customer and reduced cost for the company. These are two major objectives, in fact, two major outcomes after this modeling is done, leading to increased profits and increased competitive advantage, market growth and better staff morale and retention. So this is the outcome of the modeling. Techniques, as I said, there are this is not the only technique which we are going to discuss, which is BPMN, business process modeling notation. BPMN is one such technique. UML diagrams, which I will explain in next session. UML diagrams are there. Flowchart technique, programmers use flowchart techniques to explain that. Data flow diagrams, Gantt charts, integrated definitions for function modeling, object-oriented methods, workflow techniques and many more. So there are many techniques, many ways to explain or to draw a model. So business process modeling notation is the simplest probably out of all. And flowchart for programmer, from the technical perspective, technical point of view, flowchart and data flow diagrams used to be excellent, including if we are talking about the complete project, then Gantt chart were frequently used methods for this business process and modeling. So there are many more. So our focus in this session is BPMN, not all of them. So it is industry standard process modeling technique developed by Business Process Modeling Initiative, which is at bpmn.org, released on 1st May. Release 1 came in May 2004, and the goal is to provide a notation understandable by business users, business analysts and technical developers, that actually connects you to explain the model, to explain the process to the stakeholders, whether it is business analyst or business users or the technical developers, because this explains the every step in a clear way and simply in simplest possible terms, and by means of pictures and diagrams. So therefore you find it in a very good way to explain your requirement to the developer, to the technical developers also, and including the business users. Everybody will understand it. So in a way you can talk about, you can say that yes, this is something which will make all three of you, the users, the business analyst and the technical developer, sit across one table and understand each other. So understand each other sometimes becomes a gap or hindrance in the project development, because you probably generally analyst is not able to understand business users and not able to explain what the business users want, so to the technical developers. So therefore users and developers are the two entities where you are supposed to interact with them. So therefore, if we have a diagram where everybody understands the diagram, understand that flow, then your job becomes much more easier. So therefore, to explain how the data is moving, how the process is implemented, what is happening and how it is happening, if you explain that with the by the help of diagrams, then it will make you to communicate the things in a easier way to the developers and the business users, because you are sitting in between there. Simply put, BPMN is a graphical representation, as I said, of your business process using standard objects. It can also be defined as a set of graphical objects and rules defining available connections between the objects. BPM consists of following basic building blocks like events or circles, activities, rectangle with a rounded corner, which I'll explain, gateways, diamonds. I'm going to explain some of these figures, these diagrams. Connecting objects mainly comprising of arrows, which indicates sequence flow, filled arrow, message flow, dashed arrow, and associations. Same way, swim lines, pool, graphical container, and lanes, subpartition of the pool. Then we have artifacts, data objects, groups, and annotations. So there are building blocks which I am going to talk about. Let's look at this simple example, a business process model using BPMN. And this explained in an easy way. This diagram makes a thing easier to understand. Look at this. We have working group active. You see a circle and an envelope inside this, and then an arrow is used. Then we have a clock in a circle. Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Then after Friday at 6 p.m. we are started working group active. Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Check status of working group. Working group still active. It may be yes, it may be no. If no, stop. If yes, send the current issue list. So where is the issue list? We have a document. You can see the representation of the document and dashed arrow used. And finally send the current issue list. So Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, again go to the same thing. So we are talking about 6 p.m. Pacific time, one process is working. And how it is working, this diagrams explain it in loud and clear manner, how the process is working. So this is the BPMN, business process model notation. Another example, again easier to understand, expense claim process. Now if we have a company and we spend some money for company, we want to reclaim that money spent. So fill out the expense form. You can see the rectangle with a rounded corner. Okay, and then we have a arrow notation marked with M. Then submit expense form. Then we have receive expense. This is employee. Look at the employee part in a different rectangle, just to explain the shaded area. And then we supervisor receive the expense form, expense valid, no, notation or notification to the employee. If yes, submit authorized expense form. And where it will go to? It will go to the administration. Receive expense form, log expense form, and then SOL, which is facilitated by solution. That is the solution, make the payment and notification to the employee. So M basically stands here for manual. All right. So basically you see how easy it is to explain to the user or the developer how my process, expense claim process, is working. This is easy to understand, easy to explain for the user, okay, easy to easy for the developer. So this is a very simple example of process. Advantages of business process modeling, BPMN. The biggest advantage of BPMN is that it is a standard with well-defined syntax. So many business analysts are familiar with it, which makes collaboration much easier. It also, most modeling tools support BPMN, which makes it much easier to share and edit even if using different software. Altogether makes BPMN the most popular business process modeling technique at the moment. Look at the symbols now, quick way. Start event, circle, something happens, triggers the start of the process. Intermediate events, two circles, you can see that. During a process, that next step must wait for something to happen, we call it as intermediate. End event, the point at which the process may stop. You see circle, double circle, and a solid arc circle or solid circle, you can say. So these are two examples or two events, sorry, three. Okay, so these are events. Then we have, look at this event continued, message, link, time, and error. Now if we have a message which like we represent a message by envelope, if there's a link between the two processes or two activities, we use it by link, the arrow. And if there's a time clock, we represent it by a clock. And if there's an error, we represent by this notation. So valid combination of these event categories and types. Now see, circle, no type, or we have a envelope, so start a message, and then we have a circle with the arrow mark inside it, we call it as start of the link, we call it a start link. Then start time, because we are drawing a clock inside a circle, so start. So no type with starting, start with message, start with link, start with time. Another way, double, that is called intermediate. So no type, intermediate message, intermediate link, intermediate time, intermediate error. And same way, solid, no type, end with message, end with link, and end with error. So these three examples which we were talking about in the previous slide, start, intermediate, and end. Now you see with these combinations, extended combinations, how they are used. Okay, that makes them easier to understand in terms of communicating and drawing this diagram, or creating a BPMN flowchart. Then we have processes. Activities are represented by, again, activity rectangle with a plus sign, small plus sign at the bottom, or sub process or task. They're all rectangles. Okay, differentiating between activity, sub process, and task is of arguable value, which I'm going to talk about in next steps. Then iteration means repetition. You see there's a rectangle, and in the center bottom we have a arrow, a kind of cyclic arrow. So it is a serial loop. Process is performed 0, 1, or many times. And the example, for example, daily at 4 p.m. Repeat for each course to be delivered tomorrow. Check tutors available, check venue available, and repeat. Check tutors available, check venue available. So this is to be repeated, and you see that circle, or sorry, arc, or circular arc, arrow, in fact circular arrow given at the bottom. So this is iteration or repetition or loop. Then process flow connectors. We have unconditional flow, solid arrow, default unconditional flow, arrow with some cut mark at the end, conditional flow, some diamond, then arrow, default conditional flow, diamond, cut, and arrow, message flow, some circle, and then dashed arrow. Right? So first four can only be used within a single pool, and last one can be used between the pools also. These are process flow connectors. Sequence flow of control. Conditional, inquires on course, provide course details. So business rules enforced here. When a course inquiry is made, course details are always provided, because we don't see any conditional here. We need inquire on course, provide the course details. Simple steps, because it's not conditional. And only time that course details will be provided is when inquiry is made. So we don't provide course details to anybody. We provide course detail only when an inquiry is made. This is unconditional flow, means there is no conditions applied and flow is happening. Okay, the steps are being taken, steps are created. Now imagine the same with a condition. that okay, this is to be provided in case this condition is true, otherwise this. So this is unconditional. Now do these rules reflect business requirement? Are they workable? Probably you will get the answer now. Conditional flows: provide course details, and then we take a decision, ready to book, not ready to book. So the diamond is decision taking. Ready to book, book the course, or not ready to book, schedule a callback. Okay, another way of same thing is provide course details, ready to book, book the course, not ready to book, schedule a callback. And these are two different. You look at this, this was one direct answer and closing. So the lower part reflect two independent diamonds or decisions. Ready to book, book the for the course, and another independent is not ready to book, schedule a callback. Are these two process flow equivalent? Which one is better? You take a call. For me, I find it first one because it is closer in nature. It is closing the things that we are taking the decision on in one question itself. And second is we are asking two questions. Okay, so these are two independent flows, two independent boxes. I would rather prefer the first one. So for me, I find first one better to implement. This is called, these are all conditional flows. Okay, so sequence or the steps are followed based on the condition. And this is all the list, categorized list of business processes, activities, main categories I am talking about. I'm not going to explain each and every symbol here. Complete example, the list, source of the list is given on the top of the slide. You can also download this symbol and understand, and in fact zoom it out to understand. However, they are self-explanatory. Activities, gateways, conversions, choreographics, events, data, pool, and then we have swim lanes. So this is basically a complete list of all the symbols with explanation which symbol is used for what. Now the BPMN 2.0, which is the latest one, what is the problem? More than 100 elements are there, unlikely to be fully understood by most experts, much less users, unlikely to be fully supported by most vendors, has led to rejection of BPMN in favor of simpler modeling paradigm. The solution is not everyone needs to learn everything, because why do we use all the symbols? Group BPMN elements into sets used by different persons, like different personas. For example, business user. So you group some of the symbols or some of the models only for the users. Then we may have a business analyst, so you create separate. So you group the symbols together for business user, business analyst, architect and developer. Each level add more detail to the model for their own requirements. Now early version used to have this. There are simple symbols, sequence flow, task, sub process, exclusive, parallel, start event and all. Then we have descriptive. Earlier, then after that detail plus 29 elements were added, and finally complete plus 50 elements. So you can see that complete is a superset of detailed, descriptive and simple, and same way detail is a superset of descriptive and simple. So you can see how they are managed. And this is earlier version, but this is appears to be complex, not easy for us to understand. So therefore what we have done is we have simplified it, and the recent version is we have descriptive visible elements for high level models used by business analyst. Then we have analytic, all descriptives, and then we have common executables, all for all of analytic plus elements for the executable models. So different levels are there. We have categorized it, and the recent version is more you can say user friendly and objective, target objective or audience objective, objected. Descriptive subclasses. There are many subclasses. Descriptive, like participants or pool of participants, lane set, sequence flow, unconditional, message flow. Then we have exclusive gateway, parallel gateway. These are all subclasses of this business process models. From the diagrams you could see that. Then I'm not going to explain each one of them. I'm just listing them out so that when you see the diagram, if you understand 2 and don't understand 3, you can easily find the answer of the rest of the 3 also. And this is example of descriptive subclasses. Now for example, customer is a pool of subclasses. New account request, you see the start message start event, and you can just see the circle again and envelope. Receive new account request, and then there is a process, then there is a log mail. You can see the process, user task. Then after that, one dark arrow and 2 dotted arrow, one dotted arrow going to data object, another dotted object arrow going to the remittance, which is, we call it as data associations. So we have diamond again, diamond plus, decision, that means it is decision making, going to process application or process remittance. So this is the subclass example, and you see the customer part is not explained here, not elaborated here. We have, because a lot of processes are involved there, a lot of diagrams are involved there also, but we are not explaining that. So we are talking about the simple process only for this purpose, subclass. So we are explaining only the subclass. Okay. Then we have descriptive subclass example. Expansion of process applications. Customer receive customer information, customer database, which is a data source here. Okay. Then create account, link accounts for online access. Then we have mail account forms. So together we do it, what is called a review compliance. And create account coming from what is generating customer database also. So the diagrams complete. This is subclass example, and you see the end result is a circle, dark circle. So this is a descriptive subclass example. Then we have analytic subclasses. Sequence flow, which I explained, conditional sequence flow, default, send task, receive task, looping activity. I explained the looping activity also. Multi-instance activity, exclusive gateway, inclusive gateway, event-based gateway. Even I don't recollect all of them, the message. We remember only what we need. We don't need to learn all of them. Analytical subclass, intermediate events, catching messages, throwing messages, boundary messages, non-interrupting boundary messages, catching timer. Okay, all these are examples of intermediate events in the analytic subclass. Now, how do we start? What is the process of modeling processes? Step 1 is identify start events. Always verify in scope. So first part of it, we can say operational event that triggers the process, and then data maintenance events, almost always reference some kind of data. And the third is reporting events to monitor business performance. So first part is identifying starting event. Step 2 is for each starting event, do these steps. Step 1, assign the event to an originating pool and the lane if possible. And step 2, define the happy path top level process response. How to do that? For each process steps, perform these steps: assign the lane, define the other normal exit paths, and define other exceptional exit paths. And finally, for each top level process, decompose if as required, and balance. So this is a process for modeling. Now this is a simple exercise which I am giving you, and just imagine I am going to provide the solution also, just to make you understand. I own and manage a florist shop called My Florist. I want to start emailing reminders to customer when special occasions are due for which they have brought flowers in the past. For example, suppose birthday. So when a customer buys flowers, I want the florist to capture the occasion and email address if possible. There may be no special occasion involved, or they may not wish to tell us what it is, and they may not want to tell us their email addresses also. Then daily at 9 a.m. I want to be able to review what reminders could be sent that day. Choose which one I want to send, write an email and send it. I may want to add type of special occasions also. Draw up a process model to support that process. This should not take more than 15 minutes. If you have understood the questions, you can read once more. I can give you 30 seconds, a pause of 30 seconds. So read it once more, and then I'm going to draw it and show you the diagram. Okay. Now you have understood this question. Look at the diagram. Customer. Customer wants to buy flowers. Okay. Then My Florist, the shop. We have florist and the manager. Florist. Record the occasion. Occasion not supplied. Terminate. Stop. So it was a decision taken and the conditional stop. Occasion supplied. Okay. Record the mail. Email not supplied. Stop. Email supplied. Reminder recorded. Okay. From the manager point of view, florists want to maintain special occasions. Maintain special occasions. Now look at the another event. Daily at 9 a.m. So start the event, and timer is there in that. So start event. Select reminder. User finished. Terminate. Not finished. Okay. Reminder selected. Send the reminder. Reminder goes to the customer. So this is the example. This is a very simple example of business process model. Prototyping. Prototyping is the process of quickly putting together a working model, a prototype, in order to test various aspects of a design, illustrate ideas or features, and gather early user feedback as per definition from Wikipedia. IEEE defines prototyping as a type of development in which emphasis is placed on developing prototypes early in the development process to permit early feedback and analysis in support of the development process. Why do we need prototyping? It enables us to explore the problem space with stakeholders as a requirement artifact to initially envision the system, entire system. We can visualize that. That is a very good way of doing it. But for large models or large projects, this becomes very complex. As a design artifact that enables us to explore the solution space of your system, and as a vehicle for you to communicate the possible UI designs of your system, and a potential foundation from which to continue developing the system. That's by definition need of prototyping. And what is prototyping? Advantage and disadvantages of prototyping. Advantages: user can try the system and provide constructive feedback during the development. Disadvantage is each iteration builds on previous iteration and further defines the solution. This makes it difficult to reject the initial solution as inappropriate and start all over again. Advantage: an operational prototype can be produced in weeks. Disadvantage is formal end of phase review do not occur. Thus, it is very difficult to contain the scope of the prototype. User become more positive about the implementing the system as they see a solution emerging that will meet their needs. Disadvantage: system documentation is often absent or incomplete since the primary focus is on development of the prototype. Advantage is prototyping enables early detection of errors, and disadvantages: early backup and recovery, performance and security ideas issues can be overlooked while reaching out the solution. These are some of the advantages and disadvantages of prototyping. Journey of prototyping processes: goals, identify the goals, then functionality, and then develop the solution and evaluate the solution, and this goes on. Thank you very much for watching, my friends. Thanks. That's all for this session.